Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar on the application paper on operational resilience objectives and toolkits. My name is Joe Perry, and I'm in the Secretariat of the IAS, and I support the work of the Operational Resilience Working Group. We will be recording today's session, and the recording will be available on our website later on today. The slides for this presentation are already available on our website, and I will drop details in the chat later in case you would like to access those. We're going to have a Q&A session at the end, so please feel free to either drop your question in the chat, or once we get to the end of the session, to raise your hand and we can unmute you so that you are able to ask the question. Also to flag for members on the line, we have 2 member-only webinar sessions coming up in the course of the next few months. These are to support you in understanding the application paper. I will also drop details of those in the chat as well. So now I would like to welcome the chair of the ORWG, Andrea Vetroni, and the vice chair, Max Tanavsky, who will be presenting today, and then we will finish with Q&A. So over to you, Andrea.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joe. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone on the line. It's a pleasure to be here to present once again the work of the ORWG, Operational Resilience Working Group of the IIS, on this application paper. So let's start before entering into the concept of operational resilience to tell you a little bit what is the Operational Resilience Working Group. And how we have been working, how the group has been working on the subject for the past 5 years. So the IIS implemented a task force immediately after the COVID pandemic to better understand how the impact of disruptions were on supervisors and on supervised entities. This group matured in the course of the time and developed itself, becoming a structural part of the work of the IIS, of the strategic plan of the activities of the IIS on the risk profile of the insurer, because the operational resilience became, let's say, a more evident and more important part to run a business of insurers. The group is composed of more than 20 jurisdictions all across the globe. So we have almost all the continents in our group. We have Europe, we have the North America, South America, we have Africa, we have Asia, of course, and we at the moment I don't believe we have Oceania's colleagues, but we have we have Middle East, of course, several colleagues there. So we are a very diverse group with experts with expertise focusing on legal skills, on IT, very strong group of people as an IT control, IT background, very strong. We have people who have experience on governance and outsourcing. So it's really a very diverse group with also very different level of seniority, which helps us in taking the issue of operational resilience with a holistic approach. Now, entering into the subject of our application paper, which is operational resilience. It's a buzzword. Resilience became a buzzword for sure following the pandemic. Everybody talked about resilience in different contexts, with different meaning. So what we thought at first when we were working on this application paper is, let's try to define what operational resilience is for us, what operational resilience means for the insurance sector, and what operational resilience meant in this context. So basically, we took, of course, we leverage on definitions used by the FSB, by ISO standards, for example, on similar subjects. And an operational resilient insurer is an undertaking that can encounter, withstand, mitigate, recover, and learn from an impact of events that disrupt their operations. Those events can be IT disruptions, can be disruptions caused by other forces, such as pandemics, such as climate, such as operational disruptions. So the key concept below operational resilience is that disruption will occur. So we are not looking for a system that is failure free. We are looking for a system that can bounce back and be elastic, if you wish, when a disruption occurs. So that's the key goal of operational resilience, and that was the key goal and the key subject of our paper. Next slide, please. We consider next slide, please, Joe. Thank you. As I said earlier, we as ORWG started the journey on operational resilience in the COVID aftermath. And there was first, as outcome of the work from the COVID aftermath, there was an issue paper on, there was a publishing of an issue paper on operational resilience in the insurance sector. This was it was meant at describing how the insurance sector reacted from the pandemic, what were the areas that the insurance sector globally worked well and globally needed, let's say, supervisory scrutiny, supervisory attention going forward. One of the key area, of course, was all the IT dependency and all the cyber risk. With this in mind, we have continued our work that from 2023 brought us up to today in working on this application paper. The work on this application paper was also supported of what the IIS calls a Global Insurance Market Report, where we collect information from the more than hundreds members of the IIS in terms of supervisors. We collect this information, and and the IIS provides a snapshot on how the insurance market is working. In 2023, the IIS published a snapshot focused on cyber risk, not only from the perspective of the insurer, but also from the perspective of liability, so giving a full spectrum. With this, we worked 2 years, 2.5 years actually, with a group to develop the application paper that we are presenting today. If we go to the next slide, please, Joe. We see that we took an unconventional approach in developing this document, meaning that we have split the document in two phases. The first one, which we called objective, and the second one, which we called toolkit. The first one was developed at the beginning, and it was developed by the 20 plus jurisdiction part of the ORWG. Senior experts in the field with experience in developing operational risk and operational resilience frameworks within their jurisdiction. And the goal here was, let's try to understand what are the minimum objective, the minimum requirements, if you wish, or the minimum understanding of the insurance core principle relating to operational resilience. So let's try to articulate how an operational resilient insurer would look like when we look at the insurance core principle of the IIS. We have been written this document first and published it for consultation already in 2023. On the basis of the results of the objectives, and on the basis of the results of the public consultation, we ran a survey with our members, with all the members of the IIS, not only the 20 plus authorities part of the ORWG, trying to understand how operational resilience was understood and supervised at operational level. In this case, we received way broader participation, and we had basically all continents represented, with more than 40 jurisdictions participating to the survey. With this survey, we developed what we call the toolkit, which is basically a selection of practice that could be used or that work to achieve the objective. It's important when you look at the deliverable we have published, you will see that the objectives are very high level, very clear, and direct to insurer, while the toolkit is direct to supervisor. So it shows basically how in the various jurisdictions we have assessed, supervisors have implemented those objectives. Important to highlight also is that within the toolkit we have included example, and if you go to the next slide, maybe we can see it immediately. We have developed basically we've used some color code in the paper. You will see in green boxes the objectives. These are the inspirational principle for operational resilience, also basically how the insurance core principle needs to be interpreted to achieve operational resilience. Then you have then you have the practices that we have observed in the context of the survey we launched with our members. And then for each of those practices, you have a selection of examples. What we did when we selected the examples was to try to have the broadest global representation possible. So we didn't want to focus on having the example from one framework in each and every step, but we wanted to show that those objectives can be achieved by supervisors in different ways. So we didn't want to present one framework as the best solution to achieve operational resilience, but we wanted to present that the objective can be achieved given the principle of proportionality, the difference of the market, the maturity of the market, etc., with different ways. And I believe we did a very good job in this space, because for each and every example box you see multiple jurisdictions. You see really that there is the practice of supervising operational resilience is wide across the globe. You will, I believe also it's a very useful tool for supervisors, because you have direct links to the practices that we have observed, direct link to the examples, so that immediately also via the for those who are members in the call, you have you can via the IIS perhaps also contact the jurisdiction and deep dive if you need it. So I think really we try to make the tool operational for insurers across the globe, so that with the objective they understand what the supervisory community understands for operational resilience, expects, if you wish, as a minimum standards in the context of the insurance core principle as operational resilience. You see how those expectations have been implemented in multiple jurisdictions with practices, and then you have examples that are immediately, let's say, discoverable and used for verifying what the practices are saying. Now, entering next slide, please, Joe. Entering a bit into this I already said. So here is basically how did we develop the practices. We developed it through a survey, I said, with more than 40 with more than 40 jurisdictions participating, and we have understood that there is basically, for the objective one, which is relating to the governance and the risk management in the context of operational resilience. We have seen that there is a significant convergence around the globe of the practices in terms of assigning roles and responsibilities to the board and to the senior management of undertakings, while on the objective 2, which is the core, let's say, operations of operational resilience, so all the specification, like, for example, business continuity management, asset inventory, etc. Max will explain it way better than I can do in a minute. On that part, we have seen that there are multiple ways chosen by supervisors to achieve the same objective, and this is very, very interesting. The third objective we have in the paper is dedicated to supervisory authorities, and on that one we have seen, let's say, still some commonalities in terms of ambitions, in terms of putting the operational resilience on top of the agenda, in terms of training of staff, in terms of sharing experiences within the authorities. But of course, on that part, we have seen some work to be done, and for that reason also we have planned as IIS with our WG some tasks that we are gonna do this year, for example, on third party risk management, but also the the webinars that Joe was explaining and introducing at the beginning. With this, let's enter into a bit more of the substance of what we have written. So the objective number one. The objective one is about the relationship amongst operational resilience, governance, and operational risk management. What we say in the paper, really at the beginning in the introduction, is that we understand operational resilience as part of the risk management, one of the risk management practices of the undertaking, and one of the operational risk management practices to mitigate operational risk. I understood this objective so with twins, let's say, targets or goals for the insurer. The first one is that the insurer oversees, implements, and maintains an effective approach to operational resilience that is supported by its governance framework, and it makes immediately link to the ICP numbers, Insurance Code Principle 7, which is about corporate governance. And the second one, which is that the insurer's approach to operational resilience leverage and it is integrated with its operational risk management framework in a consistent, comprehensive, and robust member. And this one is about the risk management. It is linked directly with ICP 8, risk management and internal controls. When we develop this, of course, we have seen, as mentioned, multiple practices that are reinforcing this objective globally. So it is globally recognized that insurers have to implement an effective approach to operational resilience, and that needs to be supported by the governance framework. We have specific requirements for or objectives for the senior management and the board, which have been there reflected in a number of examples in the paper. If you go to the next, Joe, I'll hand over then to Max, right?
Yes, thank you very much, Andrea. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you very much for joining us in this webinar. Let me continue our overview with the objective 2 that focuses on key elements of sound approach to operational resilience. The objectives in this section define specific elements of approach that insurers needs to consider when establishing a sound operational resilience frameworks. As Andrea mentioned earlier, we saw quite a bit of variation in the practices around the globe in terms of how those objectives are being implemented. And in the high-level objective 2, we are focusing on technology and cyber risk management and the implications of people, processes, and systems. We also consider change management, scenario testing, business continuity planning, disaster recovery, and the use of third-party service providers. The first two objectives focus on the identification of critical services and holistic identification of key elements of those services, including interdependencies and further assessment of potential impact associated with failures of those critical services. So the objective 2.1, which is also relevant to ICP 8, requires an insurer to identify and maintain an up-to-date inventory of its critical services and interdependencies. Here we are emphasizing the importance of understanding and identification and documenting of all critical services used by an entity from beginning to the end, including key resources and the dependencies and risks involved in the delivery of each critical service. Practices in this section provide examples of how insurers can better identify their critical services. That includes the resources and risks involved in the delivery of those services, and further to identify, map, and document each critical service end-to-end and related interdependencies, including, but not limited to, connections with the third and nth-party service providers. In Objective 2.2, which also relevant to ICPs 8 and 16, we require an insurer to set impact tolerances for disruption of each critical services identified earlier. Here we underscore the importance of having a good understanding of the maximum disruption levels the insurer can tolerate in view of its ability to continue to deliver its critical services within the entity's risk tolerance. Practice in this section provide useful examples, helping to set an insurer's maximum tolerances to disruption before causing intolerable harm to its financial soundness, its customers, or the wider financial systems, and some examples of predefined impact tolerances also been provided here. Objective 2.3 requires an insurer to implement a self-assessment process to test its ability to withstand and recover from a severe but plausible scenarios of operational disruption, and ensure that lessons learned from the self-assessments are implemented to improve overall operational resilience of the entity. We brought in several but plausible scenario testing concepts as a useful basis of assessing the ability of an entity to withstand severe operational disruption. Here we're emphasizing the importance of evaluating and learning the implications of operational resilience from tests and self-assessments in advance before severe operational disruption occur, to ensure the entity has the people, processes, systems, and resources in place to effectively manage those risks if and when they materialize. So then moving on to objective 2.4, which focuses on the insurer's ability to effectively manage operational incidents, including but not limited cyber incidents affecting critical services. We think that effective incident management and response is important element of insurer's sound operational resilience, and is an area where regulators were focusing over the last few years. I can only refer to the FSB fire format that was published last year as an example of the work that the global regulatory community is doing in this space. So for this objective, we broadly refer to operational incidents that also include cyber incidents as those that can have severe impact on delivery of critical processes. Here we emphasize the importance of having in place clear processes and communication plans to prevent, identify, and timely respond to such incidents. This is important not only within the insurer, but also expand to incidents originating in third-party service providers that impact insurers' critical services. Next slide, please. Turning to Objective 2.5, this section focuses on ensuring that insurers manage and mitigate the impact of technology risk to critical services by implementing an effective approach to operational resilience that addresses the phases of protection, detection, response, and recovery. When we refer to technology risk, we use it is a broad term which also includes ICT risks and cyber risks. Our previous objectives addressed critical services from the perspective of their identification and broad setting impact tolerances for maximum disruption. Here we bring the importance of understanding the implications of technology risk to critical services. As we all know, the use of technology comes with both opportunity and risk, and can impact almost every aspect of insurance business. The objectives, this objective address the importance of managing the risk end-to-end, starting from safeguarding one system and processes and having in place established processes to detect, respond, and recover from identified threats. Moving on to objective 2.6, we are focusing on change management and the expectations that the insurer plans, tests, and implements changes in a controlled manner. This objective brings in the link between operational resilience and the insurer's change management framework and encourages insurers to consider the implications of changes on operational effectiveness and risks. The practices described in this section focus on developing change management frameworks that consider the impact of changes on operational resilience. Ensures changes are implemented in a manner that minimizes disruptions and plan for contingencies in case a change unsuccessful, and also consider the lessons learned from such failed changes. Moving on to Objective 2.7, here we are focusing on expectations and practices related to development, implementation, testing, and effective maintenance of the insurer's business continuity and disaster recovery plans to ensure that it can respond, recover, resume, and restore to a predefined level of operations following disruption in a timely manner. We bring in business continuity, disaster recovery planning, both of which have quite evolved over the last years following our pandemic experience. It is well accepted now that business continuity plans is not an activity that is conducted in silo with limited reach to the rest of the organization. We emphasize here the importance of clear recovery objectives, development of comprehensive business continuity and disaster recovery plans, and linking this to business impact analysis and validating against a range of severe but plausible scenarios. The practices in this section provide examples of how insurers can develop, implement, and test their business continuity and disaster recovery plans to ensure their overall effectiveness. Moving to Objective 2.8, we refer to the insurers effectively management relationship with third-party service providers, including intragroup and ends-party relationships. Our final objective in this section covers separate operational risk associated with the use of third-party service providers and the importance of managing those risks alongside and in tandem with operational risk associated with critical services internal to the business. We all know that the use of third-party service providers in the recent years has increased and may represent an elevated risk to insurers. Like the use of technology, the use of third-party service providers to perform critical services is becoming more prevalent, which comes with the risks and opportunities to operational resilience. Hence, we emphasize the importance of understanding and managing the potential impacts of these risks. The practices in this section provide examples of effective management and oversight of third-party risks, including intragroup and ends-party service providers, and practices related to managing the potential impact of disruptions in those service providers. Next slide, please. So moving on to the higher level objective 3, that focuses on objectives specifically related to insurers' supervisors. I want to emphasize again that all the previous objectives are also relevant to supervisors. And this section sets out specific aspects where supervisors can further support the sector in relation to communication, collaboration, knowledge, and skills, and embracing new technologies. Starting with communication and coordination, the first objective in this section encourages communication within the supervisory authority, e.g. across the departments and functional areas. While some may not view this as a high hurdle, we do understand that in some jurisdictions, in particular, where the authority is located across wide geography, this can be more challenging. Our second objective encourages collaboration and cooperation across supervisory authorities, though we recognize there might be legal impediments to this, depending on the legal frameworks and stuff like that. Nevertheless, there are significant benefits to these types of sharing arrangements, such as being able to identify and mitigate concentration risk across jurisdictions with the use of third-party service providers, for example. Moving on to our third objectives, which reinforces the benefits of cooperation and communication with external stakeholders, including with insurers, to encourage public-private cooperation. This is a concept that is embedded in the way the IAS, and we see this as a particularly important for operational resilience, because an operational incident may at any one firm can quickly become a sector-wide issue. Finally, our last objective speaks to skills development, education, training, and embracing learning with respect to new technologies, which we see as important both within and outside of the supervisory community. That brings us to the end of the objectives this defined in the paper. Next slide, please. Now, let me take you through our consultation on the objectives and toolkits, a note on what feedback we have received. I think Andrea mentioned at the beginning, that there was two consultations, one on the operational resilience objectives, which was in August 2024, and this consultation followed by a member survey of practices related to the objectives, which was truly global. The results of the survey were used to develop the toolkit, and then we consulted in September 2025 on the final objectives and toolkit developed in one application paper. Our final application paper reflecting consultation comments was published on 12th of February of this year, very, very recently. And I would like to also say that in both 2024 and 2025 consultation, we received responses from a wide range of stakeholders, including insurers, trade associations, IAS members, and other respondents. We are extremely grateful for everyone who provided their comments and suggestions. We considered all responses and made changes where appropriate. The summary of the material changes is on the next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. Let me just quickly run through what material changes we made. So first of all, we updated paragraphs 1 and 9 to make clear that operational resilience encompasses severe governance and risk management practices to make it more clear that operational resilience is a part of broad risk management infrastructure. We then reiterated the proportionality principle throughout the paper and scheduled member seminars to support capacity building initiatives in the future. We made adjustments to ensure proportionality and flexibility with communication strategies moved to senior management responsibility. That's in paragraphs 19 and 20. In objectives 2.0 and 2.a, we have changed the reference to supply chain to third-party providers, which is more appropriate terminology in those objectives. We also made edits to the toolkit under objective 2.4 to make clear the needs to balance responding to an incident and reporting to supervisors. We added additional text in box 17 to emphasize the role of supervisory colleges, and we made various changes throughout the examples used in the toolkit. Now, let me talk about our plans for 2026. Next slide, please. So in 2026, we'll be focusing on third-party risk management, and the IAS will develop a members-only report focusing on third-party risk, considering emerging trends and practices by third parties. The focus will be to define different scenarios of third-party involvement in the insurance sector, conduct a short survey on third parties among members and stakeholders, and share the experience on development of critical functions, regimes, and emerging trends on third-party services. And also to consider experience from other sectors, including work done in FSB, BCBS, and IOSCO on managing party risk, and discuss conclusions from the survey and develop member-only report. That concludes my presentation, and I will hand over to Joe for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Max, and thank you, Andrea. That's really helpful introduction to the paper. So just a reminder for everyone, please feel free to either raise your hand or drop a question in the chat. We have a number of people on the line, so please feel free to ask your questions. So I will pause for a minute just to check, and maybe whilst we're waiting, so Andrea, there's a number of members on the line. We've dropped in the chat the links to the webinars that are coming up. Perhaps you could just give the members a bit of an insight into what we might be covering in those webinars as well.
Sure. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for the questions, and thank you everyone for being here once again. So we do those two members only webinar. The first one is focusing on objective number one, so on the relationship between the operational resilience and the governance, if you want, of insurance undertaking, and the objective number two, so the core part of our paper, if you want, the key elements of sound approach to operational resilience. So what you will see in this webinar, in the first one, is a deep dive on those two areas. So way more in detail than what Max and I presented today. We will navigate to the objective. We will explain why we have chosen to include certain things into the objective, and why we decided not to include others, for example, why we decided to keep that level of abstraction, or why we entered on specific requirements. And of course, we will discuss with you the practices we observed, and we maybe show off a couple of examples from the paper. So that's what you can expect into these presentations. Those will be presentation done, and of course the opportunity to share experiences, opportunities to ask questions, to network with peers and with people interested in the subject. On the second workshop, we will focus mostly on objective for insurance supervisors, and there, as Max explained, one of the key elements is cooperation across the border, and cooperation within your authority, and building up knowledge and skills to supervise operational resilience. And here, of course, we will do the same with the objectives and with the practices we observed, but also we will give you a snapshot on certain ideas we have for projects for the future, such as, for example, certain possibility to exchange information across supervisors, and we will also hear from you how you in your specific authorities are implementing supervision of operational resilience. So basically, this is what you can expect. Max, or Joe, did I forget something? Or Arianna, of course, did I forget something?
Not from my side. Perfect. Thank you.
So back to you then, Joe.
Thanks. Now we have a couple of questions in the chat. I'm not sure whether Raymond or Ahmed actually want to read out their questions. If they do, they can just put their hands up and we can unmute them. If not, Andrea and Max, there's a first question from Raymond, which is basically looking at risk culture, governance and risk culture, and basically asking how can views on risk culture be turned into further good practices that strengthen effectiveness of operational resilience. I don't know, Andrea and Max, whether you would like to go for that one.
So maybe I start, Max, and you you complement, particularly on the FSB, since you have, of course, the
Yeah.
view and the knowledge.
Yeah, so, I think as we've seen the practices on governance and risk management are quite well developed globally. And there is a degree of consistency in terms of how those practices are being implemented across jurisdictions. And we are talking about kind of general, very good sort of approach to governance and risk management. With regards to operational resilience, I think operational resilience is a part of the overall enterprise risk management framework and governance. And I think building on those culture and governance practices published by the FSB, that's all relevant to the operational resilience as well. So I think from our perspective, we want to be consistent with other sectors and ensure that what we do on operational resilience in IIS is consistent with all those kind of defined practices, and obviously we considered all of those ones. Yeah.
Yeah, if I may just add on this, is of course we see an increasing focus from supervisors and from undertakings themselves on operational resilience. Everybody understands that this is vital to be on the market today, and there is a significant incentive to adopt sound management of all your operating platforms to make sure that they continue operating. There is also some debates, it's not included in our paper, around operational resilience and AI. So that really operational resilience is enabler for a sound adoption of AI by financial entities, by insurance undertakings. So the evidence and say then the speed of AI adoption can be, let's say, sustained only with strong governance from the top. So I believe that what you say, Raymond, and thanks very much for the question, is really what we wish to see. So we also, with this paper, we didn't want to say, look, insurance company, you need to implement an additional framework or something new. Leverage on what you have, put roles and responsibilities in the right function, and ensure, let's say, resilience at scale, if you want.
Thanks, Andrea. And actually, since you mentioned AI, we also published an AI application paper last year that picks up on some of those points that you mentioned on third parties. So I will drop a link to that in the chat later on. I'm going to unmute Ahmed now. Ahmed, feel free to go ahead. And if you could just introduce yourself as well, that'd be great.
My name is Ahmed Al-Mukhaini, and I'm from the Oman Financial Services Authority. We are the supervisors for insurance. We actually had a draft Operation Resilience that was circulated to our regulated entities, because we, both we have a capital markets institutions as well as insurance companies or the insurers. Now, the question I posed was confronted. We were confronted with, because we have limitations, some country limitations on the capacity to store data. There is not enough cloud data storage in the country for all commercial and government operations. So we kind of allowed some companies to store some data abroad, either in dedicated data banks or in cloud, also cloud servers abroad. But then when we actually requested them to have, we discussed with them about the tolerance for disruption. So if there's a disruption to their service and they require data, what is the the longest possible downtime before they can recover and all of their data and everything? And we had about 2 hours across the board. So our position was, regardless where you have put your data, that is more of the insurance management discretion and risk. They have to look after that. But as a regulator, we would like all disruptions to be recovered maximum within 2 hours, and the data, critical data has to be restored within 2 hours. Non-critical data, we will have another period for. So I was wondering whether you saw a difference in the jurisdictions, or you've seen, or you think this approach is quite harsh. Should we actually have different recovery or disruption tolerance for different data storage locations? I don't know whether my question is clear or not.
So Andrea and Max, who would like to take that one?
Yeah, I can start answering that from kind of my experience and perspective. I guess the requirements for the recovery time objectives across different sectors and different jurisdictions are very different. It really depends on how regulators and how firms see the needs to recover within a certain period of time. It really depends, I guess from my perspective, really depends if you're talking about a firm or insurer. It really depends on how the services, the critical services been identified, what are the underlying data elements of those services, and how an insurer see the tolerance levels based on their assessment, how this all needs to be recovered. In some of the jurisdictions, there are no specific requirements as to how many hours are required for restoration of those critical services. In some of the jurisdictions, supervisors choose to define the expectations of recovery time objectives. It really depends on the impact tolerance. It really depends also on the sector. Like, for example, if you compare insurance sector with the, let's say, trading infrastructure and consumer payment services, there might be differences in the impact tolerances. Not kind of discarding the importance of insurance services, the payment services might be required to be recovered within 1 hour, for example. So I guess from my perspective, that there is a quite significant difference in terms of what the expectations are. And it really depends on the objectives of those expectations. So if you really want your insurers to be able to recover within, your time objectives 2 hours, that's fine. But you need to understand why it needs to be done. And I guess as a regulators, we also need to consider how much resources and efforts that would take, and what are the benefits of those requirements. In terms of the jurisdictional differences and how those differences will impact the recovery time objectives, depends again. Sometimes geographical divergence in where the data is being stored provides you with a better ability to recover, because there might be one region that is affected by a disaster. However, you have data stored in a different region, which will allow you to recover this data in a kind of faster way. So again, that all depends on the kind of legal and regulatory requirements within certain jurisdictions, because sometimes you've got legal requirements in terms of where the data is being stored. So those need to be considered as well. So I guess from my perspective, what I can say is that there is a huge variety of, I guess, approaches how to deal with it. And when considering those approaches, we need to take into consideration what are the implications of certain requirements, and also understand benefits and challenges, I guess, using different methods. Does that answer your question?
Yes, well, thank you very much. I mean, yes, I think to a large extent, yes. Yeah, thank you.
And you're welcome to join us at the member webinars as well. So Andrea, you had a few additional points to think.
I just wanted to maybe bring on the table the experience of developing the Digital Operational Resilience Act in Europe, which was a project I led for, let's say, the past years. There we decided for insurer not to prescribe any recovery time objective. Okay, we have it for example, for central counterparties. Okay, so for and for other specific type of financial entities, but we don't have it for insurers. We had a long discussion about that, I can tell you, with all the supervisors in our scope, and also and anyhow, we considered there was another similar discussion about what is the maximum tolerable disruption to make an incident potentially classifiable as major, right? And also there was the number 2 hours. So that's maybe to give you also a bit of our perspective, my perspective from European side to your issue. If you need, I can share with you if you drop me an email, for example, I can share with you the resources from Europe.
Thank you.
Um,
When we did
oops. Sorry, Ahmed.
health insurance, for health insurance data, because we think it's more critical. So now we emphasize that all health insurance or medical insurance data must be available on site. We also have a mirror image. We have a central depository. We'll have a mirror image of these just in case, so then they can relate to it. But others, we left it for about 2 hours. But I mean, the point raised by Max is quite important. It was also raised in terms of the cost and the cost benefit analysis and the serving of the objectives. Thank you.
Thank you. I know we've got a couple more questions and
Yes.
we only have about 8 minutes left, so I'd like to head over to the questions from Margaret in Nigeria. So she had 2 questions. First of all, how do we monitor and manage the level of resilience of an organization, so an insurer, and how is risk appetite reflected in impact tolerances? Andrea and Max, I don't know which of you would like to take that.
Yeah, so maybe I start here. So I believe that in our paper we try to explain it well, I would say. So we say that insurers have to create an inventory of their business processes and the assets they use to deliver their business processes, whether they are, let's say, people, operations, and IT. And on the basis of then to do a map on the risks of those assets, and then understand which of those are essential for the delivery of the critical processes, the critical services, the critical functions. And of course, on those implements the specific controls, the specific measure to achieve as much as possible operational resilience. So that's what we explain in the paper, and this is more to answer, let's say, the second question. So very operationally, this is what we describe in the paper. And of course, this is also supported by strong governance around the approval of those classifications. How do we monitor the level of resilience of an organization? I believe, and here maybe Max has more insights than I do, that one of the key elements is, of course, to as supervisor to understand how the governance has been implemented, to understand, to look at the tests that companies have to do when they do changes, when they do implement new processes, new tools, new applications, when they migrate from one provider to another, how they manage the third-party risk. We check the test of the business continuity plans, and we check the incidents, basically. So the sum of these can help a supervisor to understand whether a company is on the right track on operational resilience. But please, maybe Max, you have more insights than I do.
Yeah, if I may add to that, I think, referring back to the fact that operational resilience is a part of the overarching governance and risk management frameworks. I guess, when you assess an insurer, you need to understand how operational resilience is integrated within those frameworks and how well it's been managed on kind of board level and senior level, and how it's all integrated within the overall processes. But then I would also mention the fact that there are expectations to perform self-assessment and testing exercises of the operational resilience arrangements through the consideration of the severe but plausible scenarios. So I think, indication of the results of those tests is something which can provide you with a very good sort of understanding of how operational resilience frameworks are being implemented. But I think ultimately the proof is in the pudding. So if there is an incident and there's a failure, that's an indication that something doesn't work well, right? So it's a combination of those factors, something that you need to consider when looking at the operational resilience assessment within an insurer.
So thank you, Andrew and Max. We don't have any other questions. It's great to be able to cover those questions, and there will definitely be more in the member webinars coming up over the next few months. Other than that, if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And for members on the line, if you're not a member of the Operational Resilience Working Group, you're very welcome to consider that. It's a very nice group and it's very active, so please feel free to reach out to us if you would be interested in joining that. Other than that, I'd like to thank Andrew and Max and wish you a good day. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.